Now that you have filtering in place, it's time to add sorting to get visible expenses. We want to be able to sort by whatever the sort by value is, whether it's by date or whether it's by the amount. Now, to actually add sorting into the mix, we're going to be using the array sort method. We can find that by Googling MDN array sort. We're looking for the Mozilla Developer Network page, and right here we can learn a bit more about it. Now we call sort on arrays, and if we have a simple array like an array of strings, we can call sort directly without any arguments, and it's going to try its best to sort it. Here we have our things sorted in alphabetical order because we have an array of strings. But if we have an array of more complex data like objects, there is no inherent sorting value. So we're going to need to define what's known as a compare function. This lets us write a little bit of code to determine which item should come first when looking at two distinct items. So in our case, we're going to look at two expenses and figure out which one should come before the other. The compare function is really easy to create. You can see an example down below. We get A and B in, and then we return -1 if A should come first, and we return 1 if B should come first. So we're going to go ahead and get this done by switching over to Expensify and actually adding a sort call right here after filter. So sort, like filter, gets called on an array and it returns the array. So we can simply chain that on, and we can pass in our function. This is going to result in the filtered and sorted array being the return result from get visible expenses. Right here, we are going to get A, we're going to get B, and we need to write a little bit of code to figure out which one should come first. And the first thing we have to do is figure out what we're sorting by. Are we sorting by date or amount? So right here, if we are sorting by date, if sort by equals the string date, that's great. We're going to go ahead and do one thing. We're going to determine if we should be returning -1 where A would come first or 1 where B would come first. And we need to add a little bit of conditional logic, and I'm going to use the ternary operator to get that done. So right here, we're going to check if A dot created at is less than B dot created at. If A dot created at is less than B dot created at, we can go ahead and toss B first. So we're going to have the most recent expenses up top. Right here, the truthy value will be 1. If A dot created at is not less than B dot created at, that's fine too. We will return -1, so A comes first. And now we can actually go ahead and mess around with this. I'm going to save Redux Expensify. Down below, we do indeed have a couple of expenses, but currently they're already in the correct order. So I'm going to go ahead and switch them up. I'm going to have one in the past come first and one more recently come second. The code is going to work if in the end of the day we see coffee first, since coffee is the more recent expense. I'm going to go ahead and save the Redux Expensify code. Right here, I'm also going to remove the filter so we can actually see both items. We have two items. Let's see what the order is. First up, we have coffee, the more recent one, and second up, we have rent, which is the one further in the past. So now that we have sorting by date all wrapped up, it's going to be your job to sort by amount. That means you're going to be checking if sort by is amount. Then you are going to put the ones with a greater amount first. So when I am sorting by amount, I want to see my most expensive expenses coming first. If I'm sorting by date, I want to see the most recent expenses coming first. Now, in order to actually see this in practice down below, you are going to want to uncomment your call to sort by amount, making sure to switch up the sorting type. Over here, the data already looks good. The first item naturally has a smaller amount than the second item. So once again, if the sorting does work, we should see coffee first and rent second, as opposed to the default, which would be to see rent first and coffee second. Take as much time as you need to knock this one out. You're going to be using a very similar technique to the one we have right here, and when you're done, test your work, then you can click play. All right, how'd that one go? I'm going to go ahead and kick things off by checking if sort by equals amount, else if sort by equals the string amount. If it does equal that, that is fantastic. We will run some code. We are going to return A dot amount. We're going to check if it's less than B dot amount. If A dot amount is less than B dot amount, the truthy value will be 1. Meaning that B will come first in the list. And if it doesn't happen to be that case, we will return -1, so A can come first. Now we can go ahead and remove the comments, save our code, and see what we get over inside of the browser. Right here we have the expenses after we add the sorting by amount, and if I crack them open, we can see that the first one is indeed coffee and the second one is indeed rent. Coffee is coming first because the total amount is greater than the rent. And when we sort, we want to sort with the highest items first. So there we have it. We have sort in place. Not only do we have sorting in place, we actually have the entire Redux store in place. Currently, it's all sitting inside of one file. In the next section, we're actually going to integrate it into the components we already have in place, and we're going to be breaking this up into multiple files. So it's a lot easier to work with and scale. Now let's go ahead and quickly recap what we did in this section. In this section, we learned all about Redux, and we learned about it in isolation. Redux is a pretty complex topic. As you can see, there are quite a few things to it, but it is essential when it comes to creating React applications that scale. Without something like Redux, our code is going to be a huge mess. It's going to be very difficult to scale and maintain. With Redux, we're going to have a very easy time creating those separate pages and allowing them to share data. So we have all of this in place. The next section is going to be a continuation of our Redux conversation. We're going to integrate it with React. So stay tuned and I'll see you over there.